Oh, it is in fact that time again. It's time for another terrible list. Today specifically, we're going to be talking about mine, not someone else's, mine. Top 3 hot hatches. And for those who don't know, a hot hatch has to be affordable because there are plenty of hatchbacks that are cool that are expensive, but that's a different list. Today it's hot hatches, and starting things off at number 3, we have the Golf R. The Golf R to me is the perfect vehicle for someone who's been into hot hatches, maybe had hot hatches that were a little childish, or maybe were a little too extreme, maybe society just didn't accept them. But the Golf R changes that, and it says, you know what, I can like a hot hatch, and I can be sophisticated, or at least pretend to be sophisticated. The Golf Rs are great. I have actually multiple times looked at Golf Rs thinking, I should really get one. And I don't know why I've never pulled the trigger on one. There are other cars I also really like too, but I've never seen a Golf R on the streets and been like, man, those are just not cool. They're super awesome. I love them. The all-wheel drive, the older ones with the VR6. There's just like a million cool different versions of the Golf R that have existed, and every generation they've made one. At least I've looked at them being an outsider, despite working at Volkswagen for a short period of time, being an outsider and thinking, man, I would love a Golf R. So if you have a Golf R, I'm also jealous of that because I think they're fantastic. So you should definitely get yourself a Golf R if you don't have one and you want one, because they're such a great hot hatch. They do all the comfort stuff. They do all of the cool kind of performance-y, sporty stuff. It's not the most extreme, but it's super livable, but gives you performance. It's just, it's so good. They did such a great job with that, and I hope they never stop making the Golf. And coming in at number 2 on my list, I'm going to be biased. It's the Volvo C30. Yes, I know I owned one, and there are videos of it on this channel. I know I don't own it anymore, and I wish I still did. I would not have sold that car if I was thinking a little bit longer, harder, and smarter. The C30 is a fantastic hot hatch. It's also not the hottest of all the hatches, but it does so many things well. It just feels refined. It has that fantastic 5-cylinder turbocharged engine. As long as you bought that one, if you're in the US, that's all we got. So that was awesome because that thing made good power. It sounded great. It was super smooth. I loved that vehicle. It was just a blast to drive. Now, out of the factory, obviously a little bit heavy, and it understeered a little bit too much than it should, but a good set of tires actually sorted most of that out for anybody who knows how to drive. So it became a dream to drive, super fun, unique looks. I really wish Volvo would not have stopped making it. I understand it wasn't super popular, but if they ever bring back a C30 in the future, despite their attempts to make the C40 kind of a C30 electric thing, but it's not really the same and it's way too big. If a C30 ever came back, ooh, I would be thinking, because they are fantastic, and the one I had will always live near and dear to my heart. It's a fantastic vehicle. If you've ever looked at one, or you want to tinker with one, or you can find a clean one, I highly suggest it. And coming in at spot number 1, I'm going to be biased again, but I'm also going to not be completely biased, because number 1 is the Ford Focus RS, the Mark I. So here's the deal. We did not have these in the US. I've only ever seen like one in person in my life from one that got imported over here that I think was first in like Mexico and then came up here. But regardless, that is like as true to form as a hot hatch gets, at least in my mind, because I've had multiple Focuses, I've had ZX3s, I've had SVTs. They're all fantastic, and they handle like dreams. And doing a little bit of work to them and racing them, which is what I did, they are just an absolute blast. Now imagine one that actually has power to make it way more peppy and fast, and that is exactly what the RS did. It just gave you everything that like an SVT wanted or needed. It gave you more power. It gave you even better suspension. It just gave you a little bit more, or a lot of bit more, depending on how you look at it. And that's all an SVT ever really needed. I've driven examples of SVTs that have been turbocharged or supercharged, and actually supercharging them is fantastic. They drive like I think what a performance Focus should be like. And that's exactly what an RS is in my mind. Granted, I've never driven one, but all the reviews that I've ever talked about them say they're just perfect in terms of being the hottest hatch on the market. There are, of course, other options that are great, but this is my list. So if you have your own, you let me know, because I'm allowed to have my own terrible list, and that's exactly what this is. So number 1 is the Mark I Ford Focus RS. And that's it. That's all I got. That's today's list of our terrible top 3. Like I said, let me know what your horrible 3 hot hatches are in the description. That's not where you put those. It's actually the comments. I lied, but nobody makes it to this part of the video anyways, so I can ramble as much as I want. But make sure you leave a like on the video if you're still here as well, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next terrible list.